So Nola, I'd like to kind of direct the next question to you, and just with your experience and the research you've done recently, I'm really keen to understand a little bit more about that and how that's being used, I guess, to affect change from a cultural perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fascinating research project, actually. One of the few times where I got to go out across the state, an entire state, and just interview Aboriginal and Torres Strait staff about cultural safety. And it was really an amazing centered piece on just, what is cultural safety to Aboriginal and Torres Strait staff, and do they feel culturally safe at the moment? And so out of that, we got to develop an actual list of what they consider to be culturally safe, what they'd like to see in their work environment. So it was really helpful to me, and I didn't really find too much that surprised me, but there were a few things. I first of all, I think Aboriginal people, they wanted acknowledgement by their peers and fellow staff members and that of the journey that they're on because of colonization. When colonization came, it created a great deal of trauma, and people say, oh, that was 250 odd years ago. However, genetically, it's been proven that's handed down, but also the fact that our systems have been displaced and much of our world displaced, and we have no longer access to our sacred areas and lots of things. But people don't understand the journey that after you've been banned for 7 or 8 generations, as my people were, my family were, um, and all Aboriginal families, when you're banned from speaking your language, living your language, performing your language, your culture, um, that actually means that by the time you are allowed to do that, to relearn your language, to relearn your culture, relearn your systems, that's a journey that many people are at different, places within that path. And they really spoke strongly about the fact that their fellow staff members don't understand that journey. And so that is a constant battle. Also, the fact that they constantly have to educate as part of their job, even though they might be an administrator or a whatever, an IT manager. If they're Aboriginal, they constantly have to spend much of their workday educating the non-Indigenous people about Aboriginal and or Torres Strait on the systemic knowledge and the history. They don't get paid for that.
Mm.
So it is really difficult. But also there was things like having understanding the local history. People understand the colonial history, but they don't understand pre-colonial times, the actual Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander history of a place. So that's not brought into the business. That's
Mm.
not brought into those workplaces. And so they see an acknowledgement. It's now a throwaway. An acknowledgement in our world is meant to be an honouring of the creation ancestors of that area. Now, it's not meant to be, I acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging. It's not meant to be, but it's become a throwaway line. So um, they talked a lot about if you were going to meet the head of Telstra next week, you would do research on that person, what they've achieved, what they've done, and their likes and dislikes or whatever. But people are not honouring the Aboriginal people in each area by doing the same amount of due diligence. So that's the
Mm.
sort of thing I found in the research,
Mm.
definitely. And it was 94% of the people we interviewed did not feel culturally safe.
Wow.
And that's an incredibly high number. It was much more than we thought.
Yeah.
but that's the current status because we do not know each other. We just
Mm.
don't know each other. And the fact is that, Aboriginal history and hasn't been taught in this country, and our systems aren't included in running it. So you've got two things going on here, and
Mm.
without that, we're going to continue in this battle that we're in today. It's really unfortunate.
I'm assuming that research suggested a whole lot of things that organisations could do. What were some of the outcomes of that, and what were the things that resonated for what organisations could do to change that figure?
The recommendations were extensive, and it's really starting to be enacted in some stages, and hopefully one day we'll all get there. But one of the key things was the um, the learning of the local history in each of their service provision areas. So they had multiple service areas across the state. And so each one of them, they wanted regular and, like you said, Anneli, not just one-offs or thing. It's actually regular as part of policy and teachings or learning. The ancient local history of that area to be included amongst the business, as a learning process, and that it becomes an important part of the learning that the Aboriginal community in that local area is actually included within the business confines. And as part of those systems to be looked at as serious teaching, learning, business, economic systems that have such capacity that they're not even accessing or tapping into. So that was the key thing. And
Mm.
what that would do, and it's worked at Healthwise, was that by actually making the journey the same for everybody, whether you're Aboriginal or non, it means that whatever stage you are on that path, everybody can come and learn what they need. So it's not just pigeonholing people, saying, oh, well, you're Aboriginal, you don't need to come or whatever. It's being really respectful of where everybody's at on their journey without making them reveal that. And I find that to be a really impactful strategy for all organisations to think. And not only that, it's beneficial to all Australians, all people that now live in Australia, to actually become knowledgeable and confident in their ancient history.
Wonderful.